You are taking way too long. Way too long. That was way more than 5 seconds.
Having edited that for, I don't know, a year and a half now, I know that is actually 15 seconds. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 24th ever episode of Press A2 Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Hujik, and with me today is Brandon Williams.
Usually takes us 15 seconds to actually get it going. So
Taylor Severn.
That's what she said.
Hello.
And Scott McPherson.
Howdy.
And today, on this very rough start to an episode, we are going to be discussing Marvel Heroes, the new, not so new, 2016, 2017, 2032 Marvel Heroes game.
Hut.
That, it came out in 2014, didn't it?
2013.
I think he missed my joke.
But they've reinvented the game several times at this point. I'm sure they'll reinvent it again for the next couple of years. But for the uninitiated, the game is basically a Diablo clone.
Action RPG.
Action RPG, thank you. With Marvel superheroes. So what's not to love? But before we really delve into that,
a lot,
and some not so superheroes.
Squirrel Girl is
a bitch.
A grade A superhero. But first of all, I want to ask, how are you guys doing? How are you guys doing tonight? Everyone's great? Just super great?
Fucking tastic.
I am pumped for Season 2 of Daredevil coming out this weekend, dating this.
I agree with that. Daredevil 2? Yeah.
Binging it.
Daredevil Season 2. It's not a fucking movie.
I slap the podcast right out of your face.
So much is happening. Oh my goodness.
All the things are happening.
Sharknado number 4. Confirmed.
Reminds me, where is my phone?
Sharknado number 4 confirmed.
We're doing the episode a little later than usual tonight on a day we don't usually record. Everyone's a little discombobulated, but
I'm fine.
Taylor is
I'm angry.
Taylor's a hand, so it's a little difficult.
I'm always ready to podcast. This is the only time I get to talk to people, really.
It's the only time he exists, really. He mostly just exists in a pocket dimension, kind of like some of the superheroes from Marvel.
Never mind. Spoiler alert.
But I think we can move on to kind of talking about the game. What did you guys? What was your first experience with Marvel Heroes? And specifically, what heroes did you start with? Taylor, we'll start with you.
Best for first. Okay, so I have a story about this.
Just so you know.
Take your time.
I will. I feel like I'm going to be taking a lot of time. I see this game as a continuation of a lineage, and I'm going to actually be repeating a lot of what I said from when we did the host topics, and I talked about Marvel Heroes then.
So, like,
but
I mean, like, that only had like 8 views.
What do you mean the game is a continuation of a lineage?
No, I think it's at like 15 now.
Because there's a series of games. It was X-Men Legends 2, then it went to Marvel Ultimate Alliance and Ultimate Alliance 2, and I feel Marvel Heroes is kind of a spiritual successor to those.
You also forgot about Diablo 1 and Diablo 2.
I'm talking more about Marvel.
But I mean, the same creator as Marvel, was involved with Diablo 1 and Diablo 2.
Yes, David Braddock. He is fantastic.
He is okay.
It's okay.
He likes cows. I
like money cows.
So I started playing those games, and I enjoyed those games. And I enjoyed Marvel Ensemble games, and so I heard the game like right at the end of the beta, and I started at the end of the beta just to try it out, because my friend was like, hey, they're making Diablo Marvel Heroes. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I tried it. And I was Daredevil because he was one of the first starting heroes. And
no!
Yeah.
Shit. Game sucked.
Sorry.
Pause for effect. And I thought that this game was alright. And I kind of had like a very on and off sort of relationship with Marvel Heroes, where I would played it for a bit, and then I got a bit tired of it, and then I would come back to it later. And they usually have changed so much. And so the big thing was, like, I played it for like the first month it came out and was like, okay, now I'm done. Dropped the game entirely. And didn't pick up the game again until its first year anniversary. And that's when I really started to be like, oh, this game.
It's a game.
And I felt the impact of a lot of their changes. And from then on, I have taken, like, been on and off breaks, but I've been playing it more than less of late.
Yeah, I mean, back in that must have been 2015. You were all over this game, and then you kind of moved back and forth between Heroes, League of Legends, and a couple other games, and now you seem to be just on it again.
I've been on a Terraria binge of late, but that's beside the point.
Except for the 3DS.
No, PC.
Terraria, 3DS style.
Scott, what about you? What's your experience with the game?
When we played last week,
And that was
that was it. But that was actually the first time I had kind of like, right, because I never played Diablo, or like, and so like the only kind of game that I had like any kind of experience with that has like a similar kind of like, the only thing similar is like its loot system really is Destiny. I've never really played like a kind of like a game where you like click around and like just kind of like beat 'em up.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. Never really played a kind of game like that, so I didn't really know what to expect. I knew one thing was gonna happen, and it was kind of why I didn't want to play it. It's exactly what happened. It was just like I need, I need the gear loot. I'm all about loot, and it's just
Surprised
like,
you didn't try to get all the achievements.
yeah, I looked.
Give him
I
time.
was just like, I looked, and I'm like, nope. There's too many.
What hero did you play?
I did
To start off
Black
with.
Widow. Black Widow. Now and then after we were all done playing, I moved on to Spider-Man, and I realized Black Widow is a very terrible superhero to choose.
She doesn't have any powers. How could she be a good superhero?
But I mean,
She's
she's not
just
even
a
strong,
hero. She's not a superhero.
like at all.
Because she's a hero. She's not. A,
Like
she's
I was
not,
like looking
she's
at
not
people.
Squirrel Girl.
I was like
Scott.
looking
Not everyone
at
can
people
be
with
Squirrel Girl.
Spider-Man, and they were dying.
Spider-Man's scary. He's a heavy hitter.
Brandon, what about you? What was your first experience with Heroes?
Same with Scott. It was last week. Played very little with you guys. Probably like an hour and a half or something
we
like
played for an
that.
hour and a half.
And my first character was Hawkmoon.
Hawkmoon?
Hawkeye. Hawkeye.
Hawkmoon.
I have
Gun
way
from
too much on my
Destiny.
mind right now.
Hawkmoon!
Hawkmoon is a gun from Destiny.
I was thinking about Destiny actually. Because I was supposed to do a
Planted
raid
the
tonight.
seed. Planted
And
the
and I was also thinking about Harvest Moon. I don't know how Hawk came in there, but
seed. Sure,
yes,
Hawkeye.
Hawkeye.
Hawk.
Yeah, Hawkeye.
Hawkmoon.
That's it though.
And that's his Marvel Heroes experience.
As for myself,
Well, it was actually a terrible experience because the game
Brandon
crashed 3 times on me.
was not a happy camper that day.
Not to mention the sound in the game is just awful.
It was
When you,
so
when you
loud.
start the game,
Holy
I
crap.
swear to God, you're gonna go deaf.
Also, I couldn't get the sound to come through my headphones. It was only coming through my laptop. Which I was very unhappy about because I was like hearing it coming out of my shitty laptop speakers, and I was really annoyed.
Yeah, I could see that being a problem.
As for myself, I started playing the game a couple weeks before the podcast, and I was playing with
He was actually
Taylor.
going to be prepared when we were going to do it last week.
Yeah, exactly. And also, the producer of the show, secret producer, got super into the game. So we were all kind of playing together. And I think my first character was Cyclops. And I had
Bitch.
a fair bit of fun with him. Lots of beams, lots of lasers. It was nice. But I think we can move on to our first topic for the show, which is the
That wasn't
narrative.
our first topic.
Well, that's like the introduction, but like the first body paragraph of this episode.
There you go. That's better.
As always, is the narrative. So, does anyone want to try their hand at the bumper?
I felt like there really wasn't much narrative.
That's not the
Oh.
bumper, but okay. Going right into it, Brandon style. Okay. Yes, I have to agree. There was not much to the narrative. Unlike some of the games we've reviewed recently, there was actually a narrative. There is a story to this game. I just did not give a shit about it.
Nope.
Yeah, I really
wanted
didn't care
loot.
either.
I just wanted the loot. I was in it for the loot. Instead.
was
I mean, if
in
you're
it,
gonna
It's
make
like, let me.
if you're gonna make any kind of narrative, at least make it interesting and interactive, not the way they did it.
Yeah, the narrative in the game is very, very just like, okay, this is happening. This is the excuse for why this is currently happening right now. And I found it wasn't terribly engaging. I found myself after a while just skipping, even the new stuff, like stuff I hadn't seen before. I'm just like, I really don't care why I'm here or why I'm blowing up these guys in green spandex with yellow.
You've never really wondered why you're
patches.
here.
I mean, like often, but in that one moment, it was one clairvoyant point where I just thought, I don't care why I'm here. And then I just
Joke.
waggled my eye beams and a bunch of people died. But Taylor, speaking as the person with the most experience and the person who's seen this game actually
Who
change
actually
over
knows
time,
the narrative.
who actually has gone through the narrative multiple times with multiple people, what do you think of it?
I think the narrative's
We won't judge
okay.
you, Taylor. Don't
And
worry.
I don't think you not caring about the narrative makes it a bad narrative. It's one of those things where correct me if I'm wrong. Do you guys read comic books?
Nope.
I've read them. I don't
I've read a couple
currently.
comic books. Although I've never actually read a Marvel superhero comic book. I've read Superman. I've read Sonic comic books, and I've read a couple like
Sonic.
Archie comic books. But I've never actually read like an Iron Man or an X-Men.
Some Sanic.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
I feel like sorry, just trying to collect some thoughts.
Understand?
There are some narrative problems, but I don't think the narrative is outright bad. And I think it
Probably better than Call of Duty.
leads through things a bit more, and I can kind of blame myself because when we were playing together, I was like, okay, this is what we're doing, and never explained why we were doing it, and I was just kind of rushing us through stuff to level up and get through more content.
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, sorry, I'm caught off guard at the moment.
But just to
Yeah.
kind of like touch on that, like I'm usually one that plays games for the story and all of that stuff like that. But even when I went back and played it again, even though we skipped all the cutscenes, I still re-skipped all of them. I don't know, like I don't know what it was about the game. I just wanted to level up and I wanted to get better stuff. That's all I cared about when I was playing it. Like it's nothing against the game. That's just what I took out of it.
That's fair enough, and I feel like a point-and-click action RPG, like the gameplay takes precedence in that.
Yeah.
And I
for
think
sure.
that's the point. This game isn't about its amazing story. It doesn't need an amazing story. I mean, Diablo 3 had a pretty shitty story, and that's not the reason people
Shots
played
fired.
that game. For comic book fans, this game has every excuse necessary to make this just like an awesome, just like I'm gonna use the word shitfest, but not in the usual connotations. Like just like an amazing, like here everything you would could possibly want in a Marvel superhero game. Like just shit's going crazy, and you just have to deal with it and waggle your eye beams and kill everyone. What is there is actually pretty faithful to comic book like lore and all this history and stuff, which is nice for comic book fans. But I think the
Faithful
problem,
as you can be.
yeah, it's faithful. It's still like breaking things so that like all this craziness can happen even within that universe. But I think the biggest problem
Wow.
with why like
Wonder how long I was muted for.
You were. I could tell.
sorry, I didn't even notice.
I did.
I think what
I just
Scott
didn't
was
say
saying.
anything.
Disagree with your Diablo comment, by the way.
We can discuss that when we do the Diablo episode. But I agree with Scott. When I went through the story multiple times, what little of it that I did, and I found myself skipping through it most of the time. And it's because the what happens in the game never really like made me want to figure out what the story is, like because the actual like plot progression would always happen in like these cutscenes, and there was like little things that happened in the mission, but oftentimes there was just like explosions going off or things going on the screen that like you didn't really care. Like I was saving Maria Hill at some point, and then she joined me, and then she disappeared, and I was following Nick Cage, and I just stopped caring at some point because things were happening so fast.
Nicolas Cage
at some point. He's Ghost Rider,
like
right?
Ghost Rider.
Like just things kept happening so fast, and they were just so inconsequential that I just there was no engagement for me, and I think that's why I just didn't care about the story, because the story never tried to engage me. Like going in a completely extreme direction, like the beginning of friggin' Mass Effect 2, like you're in a ship and all the shit's going down, but like it means something to you because like it's dramatic and it's awesome, and there's consequence to everything that's happening.
Well, you're saying Mass Effect 2. You've obviously played Mass Effect 1 and you care about those characters, where you don't super care about Marvel characters.
I played Mass Effect 2 first. I still found the beginning of 2. It wasn't
What's
as
wrong
impactful.
with you?
I know.
Who plays the second one first?
But on the other hand, like Marvel isn't trying to be Mass Effect. Like its story is there just to service the actual gameplay. So I can't really harp on it too much, even though I just did. I can't really harp on it too much for not having an amazing story. Taylor, did you want to add anything to that, or can we move on to gameplay?
I'll actually talk about some actual problems of the story.
Sure.
In that, one of the problems of like their staggered release of content is they have a story mode, which is, and the main story mode is chapters 1 to 8, and that's fine and dandy. And then they release chapter 9, which continues the story. But then chapter 9 leads into the first raid, and then that happens. And then the next part of the story is the second raid. And then the next part of the story is this Ultron thing. And then the next part of the story is chapter 10 of the story. And so there's that sort of disconnect where you might not get all the pieces right away, but at the same time, the events aren't super connected. They have like loose connections. It's like the loose connections are like what you would attach on to like the bumper at the end credits scene, where it's like, oh no, something else is happening.
The Collector. Yeah.
Oh my god, Doctor Doom's back.
Oh my god, Daffy Duck, or whoever the fuck that
Donald Duck.
Stupid thing was.
Donald Duck.
How can you say Howard the Duck is stupid?
Howard the Duck.
He's even in Marvel Heroes. It's not playable, but he's in it.
Alrighty. So I think that wraps up for the story, because there really isn't that much to talk about. But moving on to the actual meat of the game, gameplay.
Meat and potatoes. You can't have meat without potatoes.
So the story is some overly done, or no, uncooked potato just sitting on your plate.
No, the story is like broccoli. Because nobody wants it.
You don't even know the
Rapini.
story. You don't know what it
Nobody
is.
likes rapini.
Rapini.
Oh fuck! Last time I had rapini, I was not expecting that much bitterness. Holy shit, Brandon, you were there
Exactly.
last time I had rapini. That was
Nobody likes.
Whew. But moving away from
The
rapini,
meat and potatoes.
Everybody likes
the
the
actual gameplay. The gameplay in this is, I just want to say, it's mindless but fun. Like it's just shoot everyone with my I-beam. Most of them fall down. That was like 12 dozen guys. Well, not 12 dozen. That was like a dozen guys that fell down just because I clicked my mouse button. That felt pretty cool. So I'm not gonna lie, this game is pretty fun, but super mindless.
See, I have to disagree with the fun. Like,
You just
yeah,
magged
I mean,
that
I did
disconnect
not really
times.
enjoy it that much. Because, like,
Salty.
I found it to be way too easy. Way too easy. Like,
Yeah.
I want a game that has some kind of challenge. Maybe because it was because of the low level.
Call of
but
Duty Black
I
Ops
don't
3
know.
Unrealistic. It's there.
that
Brandon
is
is saying this as someone who plays Diablo, has played Diablo 2 a lot and plays Diablo 3 quite a bit. And yeah, the differences between those two games is very
Like I walked in there and I had no difficulty figuring out what I was doing, but which is good because you don't want that. But there was also no difficulty with defeating
Staying
enemies.
alive, there was no
Like,
challenge.
I think I stayed full health pretty much the entire time we played.
Unless you tackle unless you go into an area that's like multiple levels above your character, you
I mean, even when I started though, you guys were way higher levels than me, and same with Scott too. He joined in when we were higher levels in that higher level area as well.
Granted, Taylor made sure that if anything so much as breathed on Scott, he killed it with a pumpkin. But I went into some higher level areas before my character was ready, and I just got stomped. But if you follow the story with if you follow the proper level curve, there's no challenge. You just
Yeah, I
steamroll
noticed that.
through everything.
I noticed
And
that
see,
when I was. I
that
didn't notice it
takes
too
the
much with
fun
Black
out of
Widow
it.
because you guys were just decimating everything, and I kind of just was like, "Oh, I'm here. Hi."
Just
But,
like in the movies.
Yeah, but then when I was like playing through it by myself, when I like replayed all the missions, like when I was just doing with Spider-Man, I was like, "Oh, that wasn't hard."
Like,
I just like
albeit-
shot webs at everything, and everything just died instantly. And I'm like, "Oh,
The fun is playing in a group together.
yeah."
I could never play this game by myself.
I
It's just
only
too
wanted
easy.
to try out Spider-Man. That's literally why I played by myself. and then I got into the doing all of the side mission things that I do.
I will say, while a large portion of the fun of this game is just being able to play your favorite superhero, and some of the more obscure heroes as well are included in this game as playable characters. But I honestly found myself at some points just logging onto the game, just going through the story, again, mowing down dozens of people in one go. And then I look up at the clock and it's been like 2 hours and I should have gone to bed like an hour ago. Like, what happened to all that time? Like, it was just like
Oh yeah, it's a time.
so easy and simple. Like
those games.
yeah, like it was fun. Like I'm not saying I was.
No, it's not a bad thing. That's exactly what I mean. Like it's one of those games where you if you sit down and start into it, it's just like fuck.
Yeah,
I gotta do this, and now I gotta do this, and now I gotta do this.
like it just flows. So like
Yep.
just keep going, keep killing things, and okay, all your time's gone. You should probably go to bed now. And
And then 2 hours later, you go to bed.
And I kind of enjoyed just the fact that I didn't really have to think too hard to beat anything. And I'm sure Taylor is sitting in his seat right now like, "Rah."
Yeah, I
There
know.
is-
It's like, I'm gonna kill all of you.
There is depth to this game. Like, once you get to the higher levels, like things get harder and it becomes more about like how optimizing your builds and getting the right items to facilitate those builds.
Which I started doing with
As with any game
gear and
like
stuff
that.
Yeah. So there
Alright.
is some depth to this game, but if the core gameplay of it is just kill a lot of things, and that's really it.
Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah, it's Hyrule Wars. It's just kind of like I don't want to say it, but it's kind of junk food. You just keep eating the chips until the whole chip bag is gone. You're like, what the shit just happened? But you know what? I kind of enjoyed myself. I won't enjoy myself in a couple minutes.
I kind of enjoyed myself.
But that was nice while it was happening. Taylor, do you want to come into the defense while we just kind of?
I'm not. Nothing I've said is really bad though.
Yeah, no,
about
Scott's
the
being
game.
nice. Well, you two are saying your opinions. I will admit, like, this game, like, that's kind of like the sort of departure from other action RPGs. Is more or less all about the bosses, and so the like goons and guys, they're essentially just there to blow up
Yeah.
and be like, they're dead, blah.
Yeah, they're just mobs.
While the bosses aren't like super difficult, but they definitely get more difficult as the game progresses.
The bosses were the only times I ever actually had to do a rotation with my abilities, and that was kind of entertaining because for the most part of the game, I just held down the right mouse button, shut out my eye beams, did a circle, and everything died. And it was actually kind of frustrating when something didn't die in one shot, like just those like kind of regular enemies that took multiple hits, because then you're just like kind of standing there like shooting your beam or whatever it is, and they're just like slowly ticking away at your health, and it's just like, can you just please die so I can move on to the next mob? But with the bosses, like I actually had to like, okay, shoot my laser, and then because that laser does a slow, then I do this attack, which does more damage on slow targets, and he's getting close, so I'll roll away, and I'll start the rotation again, and like it was actually kind of more engaging.
To be fair or not so fair, I'm pretty sure I beat Green Goblin without moving.
Oh yeah, no,
That's fair.
those first couple bosses literally just can't touch you.
They just fall over. They're like dead.
But if you go into some of the what are those areas called? Like that city,
Midtown Mayhem.
yeah,
The patrol zones.
patrol zones. If you go into there and
Some
and
of
you
those
fight
bosses
some of
will fuck you up.
and especially when there's multiple bosses, like
Yeah, because there's like
What the shit
4
is
of them at
happening?
the same time. You're like,
those patrol areas are the only times I actually died, because that was the one time I'd walk in there under leveled or something, and just like
Yeah.
a regular minion would like start taking down chunks of my health. I'm like, ah, Gambit, no.
The story mode is a bit easier than other content in the game.
I'd
which
imagine
makes
because they
sense.
just want to kind of funnel you through it. And
Yeah.
it's like I was saying, like
they
just
want to
have
get you
that
to the
mindless
end game
fun.
content. That's what they want to do, right?
And that's the one thing that I don't have any experience with that I want Taylor to talk about is the end game content. Like you were mentioning raids and trying
Yeah,
to find...
people who have not gotten past level 10.
Hey, I got past 15 eventually. I think I stopped at 16.
I haven't. I'm at level 10.
The characters get more depth as you level up, as you would expect. And the difficulty ramps up a lot. I really enjoy the hard mode patrol zones that, like, for example, on my Starlark, my main defense is not getting hit. And if I get hit, well, fuck, respawning. And so, that's always fun. I can actually usually take a hit with Starlark. He can take a hit. But yeah, there are a lot of different game modes, and there is difficulty until like you get to super max level with the best gear, full everything's leveled up, your full Omega systems. Then things become quite a bit easier, but it takes time to get there, and there are difficult things to do in the game.
So in this game's closest competitor would probably be Diablo 3. Like that's the pinnacle of that genre. There's the Paragon system. For those of you that don't know, it's basically once your character's at max level, you can still keep getting small stat increases through basically like a secondary leveling system, which is called the Paragon system. And I'm wondering, that's how that game continues on its end game, because there's no
Destiny.
limit to the Paragon system, and you can keep getting better gear because it's all randomized. Does this game have something similar? Or is there like an end? Like this character has all the best gear that like this build needs for him, and his stats are all the best I can get.
Well, I'll say Paragon system has an end, doesn't it?
Brandon actually has more experience with the Paragon system.
Sorry, what was your question?
The Paragon
Paragon
system
has an end, right?
in Diablo 3.
I mean, it has an end, but they've been constantly adding levels of that thing since day one.
Yeah.
I believe they're up to 500 Paragon now, which could take you a lifetime to hit, unless if you're just crazy.
So it is.
Unless you have no life.
It is an achievable cap, but I think like you literally have to be like playing it nonstop to
Every
get it.
day since the days come out for hours.
I'm sure it's less. I'm sure there's streamers who've done it. I'm sure there's a streamer or two who've done it multiple times. But
to answer your question, which I'm sure
Actually,
you're asking for
I
the
don't
sake
believe there is a Paragon cap.
I know there was at first, but I
just
don't
looked
know
it
if
up.
they.
Yeah, at first it was 200, and then they bumped it to 500, and now there actually might not be a cap.
Okay.
I'm kind of just looking into it.
But we've discussed this before, Jacob. Yes, they do have their own post leveling system to make yourself more powerful. They recently just upgraded it, increased the cap of it, they have different nodes and they do different things. They added a new page of nodes. And one difference is you get those points from day one. From as soon as you start you're earning those points.
Oh,
Yeah,
start-
the Omega
you start-
points, yeah.
oh, that's
Yeah,
what those
Omega
Omega
points.
points were. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the Omega system.
See, that actually brings us to the other thing I want to talk about this game, which was the amount of systems. Now, I know this game is free to play. I know this game has been out since 2013, so they have had a lot of time to develop more and more systems to keep those players engaged. Going into this game, granted you were there to try and like talk me through some of it, and like you can ignore this for now, but fuck, there is a lot of shit in this game. Omega points and friggin' cosmic items and
Crafting.
Yeah, crafting's pretty typical, but even that was
Yeah.
a lot. And there was a couple other points that I was collecting. Infinity shards, but those are for characters I now know. And there was
Yeah.
some 2 other points or something that I was filaments or fibers or something. I don't know what it was on the ground, so I
Crafting
picked it up.
materials.
I don't know. I really don't know what it was. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it never explained any of these to me. Granted, I'm sure as I kept leveling up, maybe it would have. But I was picking these up since the beginning of the game, and I had no idea what to do with them. I have no idea why I was buffing up my enchanter, but you told me to do it, so I did it. Like, there was just a lot of systems in this game.
So you could get more enchantments. That seems fairly obvious.
I don't know what
honestly.
an enchantment is.
That's fine.
Okay.
And
Like
that's how
Minecraft,
most
when
of
you
them
put a diamond sword into the enchanting table, and then it comes out with an enchantment on it.
No, but like,
Yeah.
are you guys with me? Like, was there a lot, or did you guys just
I
like,
didn't. Well, I mean, like, to be honest, like when I by the time I joined in, you guys were kind of just like doing the story, so I didn't really get anything explained to me. So I was kind of just playing it, and I'm like, oh, this stuff on the ground, I'll pick it up.
How do I move?
And then I quickly filled my inventory very quickly. But I kind of just ignored a lot of stuff because I just didn't know what it was, and I'm just like, I'll deal with that maybe
at
later.
some point, yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, that was kind of matched for a lot of the systems in that game as well. And I just feel like it can be a little overwhelming to...
Yeah, that's the main. Like, it's not like, again, like it's nothing like it's not like I didn't care. It's just like I wanted to. I just didn't know where
You
to
just
start.
wanted to get into the game and start blowing...
And I didn't know. I didn't want to like sit around messing around with like crafting and like all this stuff because like it's dangerous for me. It's real dangerous. It's deep waters for me.
Yeah, the nuclear experience is something that it's not one of the best spots of the game, but it is actually something that they really do want to work on today or this year, not today. Jesus.
Right, they're working on it right now. They're releasing it
Right now,
tomorrow.
as we speak.
Like I kind of prefaced what I was saying.
There are systems that are locked off until you're high level.
there was
that's-
even more systems.
No, like the Omega system, you can't.
I can't really
you can't
interact
do
with
that
it?
right away. You can get points, but you can't do it.
Yeah, you can't do anything about it until you're level 60, right?
Didn't even
30.
know.
30?
And crafting like that probably won't really come into effect until end game. Same with the enchanting, but it's just something to do while you're leveling, just so that if you do get to the end game, then you have that ready to go for you.
Yeah, I imagine
That
like
makes
most of
sense.
those systems are for endgame stuff. It's just they were there from the beginning and they were never explained. If had they been like locked off,
Like a tutorial or
or a
something.
tutorial or just something so that it wasn't so confusing. But like I was saying at the beginning of this game has been around for quite a while, and they need to have those systems to keep existing players
Yeah.
engaged.
Well, naturally.
And it's good that they're hoping to work on that because it is confusing. But as long as they kind of put in that tutorial system or lock it off until you need it, I think that would be good on them. Scott, you touched on something that also bothered me, which was the amount of items. You said your inventory filled up rather quickly.
Yeah.
So there's
We
sliders.
played for like an hour and a half, and my inventory, I had like 7 spots left in my inventory by the time we were done playing, and I'm like,
Yeah, but the thing is, you got a lot of crap items. Like, a lot of those
well,
items
yeah.
were just
I'm not saying they were
garbage.
good. I'm just saying I got a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff.
It's the appearance to make you think like you're getting a lot.
getting a
like,
lot of loot, but there wasn't actually anything of substantial value.
Right.
There is a
I have like
slider you can go into the
15,000
options.
points now because I sold everything.
If you go into the options, there's a slider you can adjust that will actually automatically delete any items that are below a certain rarity. Like they'll just drop it and then disappear immediately.
There were just some things I didn't want to get rid of because I wasn't actually sure what they did or if I needed them. Like, unless it was like besides gear, because I'm like, oh, it's just gear, I can get rid of that. But like, there were some like other things that I'm just gonna leave that in case it's actually important.
Yeah, danger rune scenarios and crates and friggin' like team up items like.
And like story items or something like.
Yeah, those all go into like the amount of like systems that are in the game and just like different things that you can do in it. It's overwhelming to a new player. But also the amount of loot, like it's just so much trash that drops. And when it got to the point where even the stuff I was picking up and I was like, oh, that seems kind of good, but then I'd look at the stats on it and it was just like half a page of stats and just be like, okay, that affects this one stat slightly, and this item that I have equipped doesn't affect that at all, but it slightly boosts my walking speed or whatever, and then there's like 5 other stats, and I'm like, it's too much. I'll just keep whatever gear I have on right now. If something's flat out better, I'll equip it, but I really didn't care about it. And that seemed like kind of a failing to me because both Diablo 3 and Path of Exile, like those games are about the loot. Like that's you
Yep.
play the game to get into that
Destiny.
loot pickup cycle. And especially recently, Diablo has gotten really good with its loot, where it like gives you new effects and interesting abilities, or interesting effects rather, and very specific to your class stats. So you can tell at pretty much a glance, this is better for me, I'm going to equip this. Whereas in this game, it's like you actually had to sit there for a couple minutes and judge, okay, what am I going for with this build?
In defense of that, is the nice thing is exactly, you can have gear for different builds, right? So, like, it might not necessarily be better for the build you have now, but if you ever, decided to switch or whatever, you can have gear, like, you can collect gear for other builds.
Yeah, I agree. The fact that there was so many nuances to each piece of loot, like they each had individual statistics that they buffed, is good, but it's also confusing.
It is, yeah.
And speaking as a new player, like it was something that I was just like, and close. I don't want to deal with that. I'm just going to continue waggling my I-beams and killing dozens of people. But I'm sure that if I were to continue playing that game and keep getting higher levels, it would be something that I would appreciate more and more. Taylor, do you have anything you want to add to either the items?
They are there is a problem with loot in general, but they are working to actively fix that right now. They're test running a new loot system in the new patrol zone, and it seems to be working out fairly well, so they'll probably move that over to some other portions of the game. And
actually, I'm interested about that because Diablo 3, when it first came out, it also had a problem with kind of like garbage drops. Like it would drop items that you didn't really need or weren't for your character, or buff the stats on your character that like you wouldn't use as a barbarian or whatever.
Yep.
Like you don't need I gotta buff up my intelligence barbarian. Like that's not a thing. And
yeah, they
get those
definitely revamped
defenses.
that now.
But recently they've gotten much better. Loot will drop specifically for a character, and it'll have interesting abilities to try and buff up things that you would normally use. And is that something what they're trying to do? Are they just cleaning up the amount of garbage drops and things?
Yeah, they're trying to clean up things you don't want won't drop at all. So when you're at end game things, you won't get the white drops anymore, just because you don't need those.
Right.
If you're at end game.
Yeah. And just out of my own curiosity, do you play with the rarity sliders turned up, right?
Yes, because the mode that I enjoy playing has not been retrofitted with the new loot system yet. So I'm looking forward to it.
I just kept that on
because
purple, man.
it's the mechanics.
If it wasn't purple, I don't care.
Oh yeah, yeah. Once you get an item of a certain tier, you don't care about the lower tiers really.
Yeah. Alrighty. Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about from a gameplay perspective?
You brought up that loot in Diablo 3 had these interesting effects that actually really changed builds and such, where I've heard a complaint of Marvel Heroes where it doesn't have that sort of gear, and I'm just going to address those
Yeah, I
complaints.
was actually curious. Does Marvel Heroes actually have any gear that seriously affects your?
They have gears that supplement builds, but rarely gear
Nothing
that creates
defines
builds
it.
itself. And I feel that's wholeheartedly because it's based on an IP. Like, you want to play as Spider-Man, you're not going to get a gear that makes it so you're not really playing Spider-Man.
He shoots
Because
ice now.
they want to keep the cool things heroes do in the heroes themselves, because that's an important part of the game.
I think that's an incredibly valid point. That makes sense. Like, you came to this game. You didn't come to this game to make your own character within a certain archetype. Like, this is in D&D. You're literally playing Spider-Man. You're literally playing Cyclops. Granted, they give you different options within that character, but they're all within the lore and the abilities of that character. So that, yeah, you wouldn't get an item. That would potentially be interesting, that you're playing Spider-Man and you have, Iceman's powers, but I don't think that's why people are playing the game.
And I feel they capture a lot of the heroes really well, and when they do not, they really do work on capturing it more. Like, recently Ghost Rider got a quality of life update, where before he used to throw skulls, and it's just like, yeah, Ghost Rider never really did that. That's not his power anymore. He shoots laser beams of lava. It's like, hey, he does that.
Yeah, moving on from more, I'm kind of pooping on this game topics to actually, I really enjoyed this game.
Oh, now keep pooping all you want.
Was the amount of dedication, not dedication, but like how well the characters translated the abilities you see in cartoons, comic books, and movies into the game. Like, when I was playing Cyclops, it was just I-beams all the time, at least the build I went. And that was exactly what I wanted. When I was
Not doing punch clops. Tisk, tisk.
when I was playing Iceman, it was ice beams all the time. When I was playing...
Not using Bailey Iceman. Tisk, tisk.
And like you were like creating clones, and like you were flying on the ice surface like above the map. That was cool. Colossus, like you're just like punching things with giant metal fists, and at some point you do the friggin' Zangief, just spin in a circle, hurricane. Oh my god, that was just so fun. And it just they just capture the characters very, very well. Of the ones that I played, granted, some of them. Colossus, I was mentioning to you when I was playing him that like he seems alright, but there's something a little bit off about him. He doesn't seem as fluid or fun to play as Cyclops. And you're saying it's because
So this is a thing where they get better at doing things the longer they do things, and so they've gotten fairly good at making interesting heroes with neat kits. But they can't update everyone right away, so they have to work on things slowly. And so characters who have been touched more recently are in a better spot than characters who haven't, and they're going through the characters, making sure they're updating them. Like they did a big revamp a while ago that like fundamentally changed how the heroes played and like how their kits were designed, and they just like January finished with the last one of those because they're constantly releasing new heroes, and last year they got kind of swamped. Like they were in the weeds last year because they were like, gotta get everyone out, go. And so like that's they're not the biggest team, so like sometimes things don't come out as fast as they want them to.
yeah, understandable.
Yeah.
Alrighty, is there any other topics that you guys wanted to touch on, especially in the gameplay
Gameplay.
space?
I'm really glad with all the changes they've done throughout all the years. For the second year anniversary, they made it so you can freely respec your PowerPoints, and that changed the entire game to me.
Well, that makes sense to add that to that kind of style of game. Like I was saying, look, because with the gear, like with all the different gear drops, it's nice to be able to have the use for more than just one set of gear.
You used to need to use an item to get it, and it was either a rare drop or you could pay money for it. Which,
Yeah, exactly.
Very typical.
But then they made it free, just free to do, and it's like, oh my god, this changes everything.
I feel like at some point, this is probably at the point where this game became, when you got really into this game, when you said like, oh my god, this game is good now, I feel like they realized this game is about fantasy fulfillment. Anything that doesn't help you fulfill the fantasy of this character has to be gotten rid of. So going into what you were just saying, like, respecking, like, should just be, like, heroes aren't stuck in builds throughout a comic book. No, the power just get crazier and more interesting as the comic book goes on. So just allowing you to respec helps with the fantasy fulfillment. Anything.
I feel that they always wanted you to fulfill the fantasy of the hero. It's just
I think they realized what that entails. In the mechanics
I
of the
think
game.
the respecking doesn't really go into the fantasy of the hero. It's just more of really being nice to the player.
Not just the fulfillment of the fantasy of the hero, but also just like fulfilling the player with just like lots of loot, lots of enemies to kill, lots of character, like attention to detail for the characters. Like it's not just specifically to the character, but like the whole gameplay experience, making the character feel powerful and that they are playing a superhero. Was what I was trying to get at.
Goblins in it. It's probably the most super villain in the game right now. Goddamn Green Goblin. Not a
Anyways,
superhero. Can't say superhero anymore.
I think that wraps up the gameplay portion. So we'll go on to our last and probably shortest topic, community. I know nothing about this community. Is it thriving? Does it have a place where everyone talks besides general chat, which is just an awful place to be in every game?
Yep, never a good place in games like these.
The other day I saw them like having talking politics. I was like, wow, they are being the most civil I've ever seen.
That's different.
Talking politics, that's actually astounding.
Yeah, like with like Donald
Yes.
Trump and and stuff.
Was it a unite against Donald Trump?
It was
No.
people debating points.
It was people debating whether Trump qualifies enough to be included in the game as a superpowered human.
I'm not gonna have that conversation.
I don't think Marvel owns the rights to his likeness.
Not yet.
How about just
Not
the
yet.
hair?
Disney owns everything.
Trump is a Disney character. That is true. Okay.
Confirmed.
Moving away from that topic.
I find that the community is just about as much. It's pretty much the same as any gaming community you'll find online.
Free-to-play gaming community.
It's not like League of Legends.
Excuse me, TF2 has an amazing gaming community.
I feel
TF2
like
does have an amazing gaming community.
Just from what I've seen, the game it's not nearly as toxic as most MOBAs. Probably just because the PvP aspects of the game are so minuscule.
They tried.
Diablo 3 is not very toxic anymore.
That's good.
But I could see Marvel being very toxic just because you're constantly talking about trades and things like that, like getting groups together and
I feel like it's more cooperative, actually.
Trade chat is somewhere else. It's not general chat. You're not in trade chat by default.
got it.
Yeah. So anyone who's offering trades and shit, they shouldn't be there. I mostly know the community from 3 separate websites. I'm not going to name which 3, but they range from pretty nice to okay to I don't know why they play the game. How I said that this game has gotten better and that this game has been improvements, and it really stems from the community in that the developers, more than any game I've ever seen, really listen and talk to the players and give directly based on players' feedback. They do changes into the game. Like the original way you got heroes in this game were they were going to be random drops, and
Oh,
this
I
was
heard
bad.
about that.
This was bad for many reasons. The big reason was like someone could play for 100 hours, not get a single one. Someone plays for 10 minutes, gets 2, and it's like the fuck
Or
is
you
that?
could buy them, right?
And you could buy them.
Yeah.
But people really didn't like that, me included. And so, directly based off community feedback, they added an in-game currency that would drop instead, so that you accumulated the currency, and then you could buy new heroes.
Specifically the hero that you wanted.
Yeah. Or a random hero if you didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Part of my language. And so, even when they're updating all the heroes, people leave feedback on what they want to see different on the heroes, and when they're looking for like new powers to add to a hero, they'll be like, these guys keep posting this one scene from this X-Men anime of Emma Frost doing this heel kick. That's freaking awesome. We're going to put that in the game.
That's very good to see from a development team.
And so I'm going to another topic that's like, this is more just a story of the community, in that a lot of, you know how like when one person talks into the developer, how they kind of become the face of the developers.
Mm-hmm.
Ghostcrawler had this thing with
Dustin Browder.
and so there was a point of space where a bunch of the people that would talk a lot left the company, and people were just like, "Oh, abandoned ship. The game's done." Even David Braddock left the game to start his own game again because he didn't want to be a CEO anymore. He wanted to be a game developer again, and so like there was a lot of death chants like, "Oh, the game's done. It's over. Pack up, boys." But another thing about the community that's like hey, they're nice guys. They give so many giveaways. Like, holy shit. Like, they're just like, hey guys, Daredevil's getting a reward. Who wants a free Daredevil? Or that's a bad example because the devs are actually doing that themselves instead of the players. But like, say Ghost Rider got his reward, could they be like, hey, who wants Ghost Rider? Answer this question. First one to answer it. Bam. Okay, there you go, Ghost Rider. And they do giveaways like this all the time, and like usually it's at a lesser extent, where it's like
just members of the community, not the developers.
yeah, it's just members of the community just giving people stuff to the point where they actually have a form designated for giveaways nowadays. They
cool.
actually have their own spot to do it.
Right on.
Yeah, and so I don't think the community's that bad. I don't think the community's
No, it sounds like a very healthy community. I mean, free-to-play games are kind of a mixed bag. They can have some really amazing communities, or just very, very large communities, or they could just be dead.
And sometimes it depends on the website you go to, like the one I mentioned where it's like, yeah, I don't know why they continue playing the game. And I don't think they know why either.
What about outside of the game? I know Total Biscuits, someone I follow closely, has been obsessed with the game recently. Are there any big YouTubers or streamers or anything that's played the game that you know of?
I mostly don't watch people play games that I play because I don't
Because you'd
care
rather play the
for
game.
that. Yeah, exactly. But I know that there's one like really big streamer, and I forget his name, and I don't want to butcher it.
That is terrible.
I don't care to
So
look it up.
big.
So
He is so big.
He's
that I
just-
don't remember
He's
his name.
just the biggest streamer of this game. I have no idea how big he actually is. I just know he's probably the biggest streamer of the game itself. And I think the developers have actually like given him like here are some free hero codes to give away for your viewers.
oh yeah, it's a great way
Yeah.
to like get your game out there. So
Free hero codes is actually how I got back into the game during the first anniversary. They were doing those giveaways all the time, where it's like, oh my god, I could get more heroes, and I'm like, nom, more heroes. And so that's how I originally got back in first anniversary.
shit like that is why me and Taylor might be streaming Warcraft this weekend, because we both need a Hearthstone hero portrait. It just
Not gonna be this weekend. I have other things to do.
No!
Daredevil, lot of Daredevil.
no, it's the only time I'm free. We'll figure it out. But anyways,
Yes, so much
I think that pretty much wraps us up for heroes. And also, I desperately want to go to bed. So I think
And I
we'll
want
wrap
to
it
eat
up.
dinner.
Oh yeah, and Scott hasn't eaten dinner yet. It is quite late. So I think we'll wrap it up with what are your final opinions on this? And Scott, you can go first.
No, uh, it's definitely a game that
It
like
is
Brandon was
definitely a
saying
game.
earlier.
You were right.
That Brandon was saying earlier, that it's definitely more enjoyable if you're playing with a group of people opposed to by yourself. Like I said, the only reason I played by myself was to play Spider-Man. I like playing. It's one of those games that I could see like getting super, like I need to do all the things in, because it's one of those. That's the kind of style of game it is. So it would be a game that I would definitely play, um, and as it's free, it's definitely worth playing. So that's my take on it.
For only your time investment, it's pretty good.
And hey, if you want to support the developers, you know, give them money.
Exactly.
Buy a stash that, buy a hero.
As always, guys, if you're enjoying a game, even if it's free to
And
play,
it makes microtransactions that much more worth it, because then you're not paying for the game initially.
Brandon, what about you? What are your final opinions on this game?
You're muted.
And you're muted.
I wonder how long you've been muted.
He has been awfully quiet, but
I assumed he was just boiling in rage.
Does
Okay, what?
that only happens on my PC? I don't know. It just decides to mute my microphone every now and then.
Maybe when you stop talking for long
yeah,
periods
just
of
like,
time.
oh, he's not gonna say anything again. I'm bored.
Since you might have been muted for a while, do you have anything to say about anything we've talked about?
No, I actually wasn't saying anything. I might have been like, yeah, I agree with that. No, I don't agree with that. But other than that, I don't know where I was cut off, so it doesn't matter. Anyways, I'm gonna come right out and say it, and I am just not a fan.
Salty.
I don't hate
Still
the game.
salty.
I'm just not a fan of it. I didn't really enjoy it that much. I found it really kind of plain and dull.
Brandon playing the part of Mike this episode.
I'm sorry, but I found it plain, dull, and like I couldn't get into it. The only reason I would play it is for the characters, and that just even wasn't a pull for me.
Completely understandable. Taylor, what about yourself?
I have always really liked Marvel Ensemble games. I've always that's how I mostly knew Marvel. Growing up was just from playing the video games. They had a bunch of really okay and to good to bad video games, and I really enjoyed playing them. And like with the new movies coming out, like I've gotten into Marvel more. And I've tried to be getting into the comic books in a way. And this game just it hits a lot of the right notes for me. And like it's not a game that if it wasn't a Marvel property, I probably wouldn't play the game. I would fully admit that. I would not play it if it was not Marvel characters. And over the course of doing this podcast with you guys, I've come to realize something about myself and how I play video games and what I want from video games. And the thing I enjoy the most is actually a progression system and being able to progress in a video game. And this game has just enough of a progression system to keep me interested. And so despite like me really liking Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, I can't really progress in that anymore. I've completed the story so many times, I've unlocked all the characters, I've done all it's nothing for me in that game anymore. But with this game, they will continue to make new content, work on old content, and always something I can work towards, and that's something I've learned to appreciate.
Yeah, the amount of development time the developers have put into the progression systems, that's completely reasonable. Like they want to keep you playing, and they know that's how they're going to do it. As for myself, I kind of agree with Brandon. I actually kind of enjoyed my time with the game, but there wasn't enough there to hold my attention besides the fact that I could play as Iceman, Cyclops, you know, those Gambit. Like I really like the X-Men. I just from childhood I've always really liked them.
You played the really simple characters.
Yeah. Gambit it wasn't super simple, but yeah, I don't think there was enough in this game to engage me compared to a lot of the other games. I mean, I think Diablo 3 is a better game than this, and I don't even play that. So I just don't think there's a lot of value for me in this genre in general, let alone this game. While I played it, I had fun, but I don't think I'm ever going to go back to it. All right, I think that wraps us up on our Marvel Heroes discussion. So, to quickly wrap it up, if you enjoy what we're doing here, you can follow us on Twitch at press_A_2_podcast. We do this podcast every other week on a new gaming topic, kind of a review style show. In between weeks, you'll usually find me and a couple of these other goofballs streaming random games, usually Heroes of the Storm, but not always. You can also check us out on YouTube at Press A2 Podcast, and you can also follow us on Twitch at on Twitter at Press A2 Podcast. If you want to leave any suggestions, comments, or criticisms for the show, you can either leave them on whatever site you're watching this on, or you can get us by email at pressapodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to see what you have to say about any of the gaming topics we have covered so far. I'm pretty sure. Does anyone here have anything they want to announce or pimp before we?
I have a
log off?
Voltorb named Balls Deep in my repertoire.
The best thing I've heard all night.
I mean, you didn't specify. Jacob.
I didn't specify whether or not you should discuss the nicknames of your Voltorbs. Mine was Nerd Baller, but
that's not as good.
I thought it was pretty good.
No.
Nothing?
No.
Alrighty, I think we can finally go
amazing.
to bed, guys. Did he have Dig?
Voltorb?
Yeah.
Can't
Every
learn to-
Pokemon can learn Dig. It's like the most...
for
Anyways,
Voltorb.
guys, thanks for watching. The next episode...
You can learn Flash.
God help me, the next episode is going to be Stardew Valley. I fucking love that game.
Or
Have-
Rocket
No, it's
League.
not. It's my birthday episode. We're on fucking Stardew Valley, Jacob. I'm gonna kill you. I will kill you.
I think you should buy it and download it and play it. You know who has it? Thierry has it.
You know what I bought? An Elite controller.
Have fun, guys. And good luck.
I hate you. Show me it.
I ordered it online, so it'll be here.
Where'd you get it, on Amazon?
Best Buy.
How much?